Yeah, no, it's really exciting. Again, I did a tech show here called Silicon Reel, and from like 14 to 16 in London, and we saw a lot of the London talent relocate. They all go to the Valley when their idea got kind of big because they'd go there to become the
Yeah.
unicorns because it wasn't happening here. But I don't think that happens anymore. And with Australia, again, you guys have always been forward thinking about mindset, physicality, bodies, all this other stuff. And it doesn't surprise me when I see entrepreneurs and I speak to people like Robbie and your brother and you, and I'm just like, okay, you got all that, forward thinking, risk prone, novel thinking values that seem to come from down there. And now with capital and the blockchain, yeah, looks like you guys are just getting warmed up. I just wanted to finish. I know you wrote this book called Bending Metal that talks a little bit about AI in the future, and I'll be honest, Kane, I had a couple dark moments on the show when I talked to Arthur Brightman at Tezos, and I was talking to Jeff Booth, who wrote the book about deflation. And when we spin off into the AI world, it can get a little weird. When you talk about a DAO, in a weird way, that's not AI, but it's a weird way of there's an entity in the future that won't have regulation, and of course humans will control it. Is this something you spend your waking hours thinking about? Is it something we need to talk about and be aware of, or is it just something that we need to just be a part of?
Yeah, that I wrote that book as a fiction book as a response to some of the books that I was reading about the challenges of AI. Superintelligence was probably one of the primary ones, and I have been someone who's followed AI research since like the late 90s, right? It's been something that's really interested me, and I think as the concern has kind of built and as AI has become, much, much more powerful, right? Things like DeepMind, we saw Deep Blue beat, Kasparov in whenever it was, like 1998 or something like that, which I think was pretty big. But now, like, you got something running on your iPhone that can, crush Grandmaster easily, right? And I just think we've seen, then Go, and then, things like StarCraft, and, we're starting to see AI really, really, go into areas that people thought were either not possible at all, would never be tackled, or, would be 50 years in the future. And the acceleration of technology is this very scary thing, right? So this idea of like the singularity of this point that we're rushing towards, that past which, you really can't work out what the world will look like, is something that I think at times I've spent a lot of time thinking about. At times I kind of push it to the back of my mind and try and get on with, day-to-day life. But there's no question that this is something that I think we're going to have to grapple with over the next, 10 to 20 years. And the AI not skeptics in the sense of, they're not skeptical of AI and its power. They're actually skeptical of the impact that AI might have. I think those people are raising very, very, very valid concerns that we need to think about. The interesting thing, having been in crypto for a long time and seeing how difficult coordination is, I worry that we may not have it in us to coordinate our way out of this problem, and that it may just, kind of steamroll us without us even being able to figure out a solution around it, which is a little bit concerning. And I think crypto is kind of, if anything, there might be something in it that gives us the tools to coordinate our way out of it. But it also has shown me how hard coordination is, even when you have great tools. So it's something that I worry about for sure.
Yeah, I think we should definitely be talking about this more. I was joking to one of my colleagues here that the problem with AI is that when something does happen, you'll hear about it on a Friday, and then everything will be over on a Sunday, right? The infrastructure will be
exactly.
It's
maybe Friday afternoon.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, it might not even take that long.
Like 30 minutes later, what are we going to do? Well, it's
exactly.
too late. It's already
Too late.
iterated, gone exponential, and yeah, it's something I hope we talk about more. Just want to finish, Kain. What do you do in 5 years from now? If everything goes the way you want it to, 5 years from now, are you spending your time touring in a band? Are you a counsel at Synthetix? Are you doing gaming stuff, or a combination of all the three? What do you think what would be your favorite, 2027 outcome?
I think 5 years from now, governance is still a problem. And I think that there will be specific problems within like Synthetix governance and some of the other ecosystem projects that I participate in, and some of the projects that I've helped fund or advised or whatever. So I think the specifics of governance of individual projects is a problem that doesn't disappear in the next 5 years. In fact, it might even become more important how we govern them and working through those governance challenges. And then I think there's a general governance question, right? About like, how do we build the right tools to enable governance in the future? That problem is 100% not solved in 5 years. That's going to be a conversation that's still developing. And so I think that, this fixation that I've had over the last year or so with governance is probably something that just takes up more and more of my time, particularly as Synthetix gets better at delivering the product vision. I think there are other people out there who can do a better job of delivering the product vision of Synthetix than I can. But I think that, the amount of time that I've spent thinking about governance of my life, the last probably 30 years or so, I'm uniquely positioned to kind of navigate some of these challenges and hope to continue to have input into the process.
All right. So your life's work will be governance. It'll be on your headstone, maybe.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's certainly in 5 years' time, I'm still very deep down that governance rabbit hole. I don't see how that isn't what plays out.
Yeah, no, that's super exciting. Like I said, when I first came back into this space a year ago, I could not see it from the lens of just running to be mayor of London and just got an education in politics. And I thought, wow, crypto is one part tech, one part marketing, one part politics. But again, in the last year, I haven't seen the governance be such an issue on these protocols, but I haven't seen underneath. But obviously going forward, you said it's more important than any of these smaller topics like derivatives. It's everything. So I think it's such an exciting space, and I'm glad you're on the case. Just any final thoughts, Kain, for people here, especially people here that are maybe newish to the crypto and DeFi space, or just things they should be thinking about for the next couple of years, or just any final thoughts?
Final thoughts for me are, Ethereum is finally scaling, right? And, despite what people may have said or what you've heard or what you've read or seen on crypto Twitter or some, influencer or whatever, Ethereum is now scaling. And so if you are someone who hasn't participated in the Ethereum ecosystem and has been hesitant to because of gas costs or whatever, you can now go to Optimism, you can go to Arbitrum, you can go to Stockware, and you can actually use these platforms, and it's not prohibitively expensive. And so, like you say to your DeFi Academy, the only way to learn is to go and get your hands dirty and start playing around with these things and do transactions and experiment. So I would really encourage people to actually take the time to learn how to test out layer twos and see where scaling is happening on Ethereum, because it's finally here and it's going to enable a new wave of innovation that is going to dwarf DeFi summer.